Video by Emmanuel Isaiah Smith.
Host Emmanuel Isaiah Smith, and today's date is Friday, November 21st, 2025. The time is 3 p.m. and I am in Doral, Florida. The topic of today's lecture is systems and databases. Before I start this lecture, I would like to say a word on a post that I did last night on my various social media pages concerning some people that I've known from years past that have emerged unannounced in my immediate vicinity, particularly in the Kendall, Florida area, but more generally in Miami-Dade County throughout. It's like this. Those of you in the various institutions that I named, all right, Shaker Heights High School, various workplaces that I've been employed in, various colleges, various churches, and so forth. The ones that I fellowshipped with as friends, I still consider you a friend and care for you very deeply. However, the persons that I'm referencing in that post are the ones that were adversarial to my person. And you remain adversarial to me and remain my adversaries. You know exactly who you are. Okay? It's quite out of character for me to get on a program like this and single each and every one of you out. I have more important things to talk about to my listening audience. Okay, if you were my adversary 25 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and you're part of the group of people who are sort of just randomly appearing in my immediate vicinity as I go about my daily business, particularly over the past 6 months, I'm seeing a lot less of you all right now. But from approximately July to September, the beginning of July to the end of September, that time frame, I was seeing a lot of you. And quite a few of you were wearing disguises, but I have explained in various discourses that I don't forget a face. You can wear a disguise. Some of you were wearing dark makeup to darken your complexion, or light makeup to lighten your complexion. Some of you were wearing wigs. Some of you were wearing hats. Some of you were wearing sunglasses, but I still recognized you. And I've accurately called you out on Facebook. You know who you are. Okay? It's not a coincidence that I crossed paths with you and other persons that I knew in your various institutions. Okay, you were made to come in close contact with me by design. That's how gang stalking works. It allows both strangers and persons that the targeted individual knew from the past to get in his way using various signaling and other disruptive mechanisms. So you can essentially poke your nose in his business. You get an opportunity to participate in industrial grade espionage tactics, and you get to participate in a few disruption tactics as well, in case you have something you'd like to get back at me for. But I'm letting you know today that in each of the institutions that I've named, I've already seen you, and I already know where I've known you from. If push comes to shove, I will start naming you individually. Okay? And to those of you at these various institutions that I did know, that I was close with, I certainly hope you continue to live prosperously and healthy during your trajectory through this world. Furthermore, I would like to address very briefly, the revenge and retaliation element of clandestine gang stalking, ladies and gentlemen. That element of gang stalking that allows people who have known you from years past, that you may have not been terribly friendly with, or perhaps they haven't been terribly friendly with you, or perhaps they were able to craft some narrative to a liaison or some other similar stalker, like an undercover operative, as to why they should be allowed to get back at you. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll have you know that I typically do these lectures outdoors, and I may have to project or raise my voice to drown out the background noise, so please adjust your volumes accordingly. Furthermore, ladies and gentlemen, I am doing this lecture in front of the Doral Park Fountain, so the noise you hear in the background presently is the rush of running water. So the revenge industry is a huge part of clandestine gang stalking. You can pay liaisons, you can pay undercovers, you can pay existing gang stalkers for access to an enemy that you may have had years ago. Or maybe not an enemy, maybe just someone you want to afflict while wearing a disguise and afterwards scurrying off like a family of cockroaches. I've seen you all. You all started appearing around the same time too. That shows that the liaisons that y'all paid for my location, the private investigators and other deleterious persons that you paid to lead you to my location so you can participate in gang stalking's various disruption tactics, clumped you all together. So all of the entities that I've named on my Facebook page that I've gone to, particularly where I've studied at or worked at or gone to church at, you all started appearing around the same time, and I noticed and recognized all of you. I'm curious as to whether or not you all colluded with one another so you could feel safe. Because ladies and gentlemen, that's what gang stalkers do. They like to do their dirt and feel safe while they're doing it. So sometimes gang stalkers move in units and packs. And how this many people that knew me over the past 25 years in various capacities and in various conjunctions of my mortal life got together and began appearing in my immediate vicinity all simultaneously, whether or not they know one another, it's creepy and it's disgusting. If anyone who knew me from years back wishes to reach out or say hello, Google me, Emmanuel Isaiah Smith. And there are a number of websites and phone numbers and email addresses that I check daily that will assist you in that endeavor. But for you to use gang stalking, the very disruption mechanism I speak against, the very state-sanctioned thuggery mechanism that I speak against, The very thing that I call a scourge to humanity, you participate in it simply so you can put yourself in my vicinity, use your espionage tricks and your various signaled disruption tactics before you scurry back off. All right, you ought to be ashamed of yourselves. And as I often say, you're making yourselves, your families, your colleagues, your communities, your country, and your gods look horrible. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we're going to get into the main talking points of the lecture. We're going to talk about systems and databases. And the reason I've chosen to talk about systems and databases is because in today's day and age, systems and databases can be used as a weapon against targeted individuals. Indeed, systems and databases can be used as a weapon against anybody. People who have access to your personal information, your vital statistics, your contact information, and other such information about you typically have the ability to put notes or document reports in whatever the system is that they're able to pull your information from. If I wanted to harm somebody, or if you wanted to harm somebody, or let's say a gang stalker or undercover operative or a liaison wanted to harm somebody, or hurt their reputation or their image, they could create a false narrative to write a false report about you somewhere. For example, I heard a number of years ago that someone in the Miami-Dade Police Department jotted down in a file that any officer that approaches me, your host, Emmanuel Isaiah Smith, should proceed with extreme caution because I'm extremely dangerous. I wish I knew the name of the county employee that put that load of garbage about me in a police file so that any police officer that responds to a call that I make will instantly have a negative image of the man that they are about to do a report for. I am not anti-law enforcement, ladies and gentlemen. I have for the past 7 months now, done a citizen patrol through Olympic Park in Kendall, Florida, as a way of assisting Miami-Dade County Sheriff's deputies and police officers alike in the apprehension and or capture of various deleterious, violent, or otherwise criminally inclined persons that hang out in that park. And we've done some good work together, me and the officer that I was working with on that particular endeavor. And doing this citizen patrol assignment also allowed me to get an even tighter grip on various signaling mechanisms that gang stalkers use. Because mind you, ladies and gentlemen, gang stalkers come from a wide variety of socioeconomic backgrounds. Okay, there are people who are very wealthy that utilize these stalking methods. There are people who are very poor that utilize these stalking methods. There are people that are middle of the road or middle class that utilize these stalking methods. And there are plain criminals who have nowhere to go day and night that participate in these signaling mechanisms. It is a covert way of accomplishing something, usually something disgusting, pestering, annoying, violent, disturbing, gross, or pandering, particularly to another person. And sometimes these stalkers are being signaled by people who have plugged into your gang stalking campaign that you've known over the years, who you haven't seen in a while. People who have hooked up with the right people and have the access to the gang stalking mechanism, and they use that access to signal your existing stalkers to your location for various acts of deleterious or degenerate behavior. Ladies and gentlemen, you can injure a person's reputation or their life using systems and databases. Okay? There are persons in various academic institutions, in various religious institutions, in various occupational institutions, okay, law enforcement or military institutions, or other institutions that can work to harm you using their systems and databases, particularly by filing or placing injurious comments about you in your file. Oftentimes, these injurious comments can be used by stalkers to justify their gang stalking campaign against you. And I'll give you an example, ladies and gentlemen. So, I've been a patron of the Miami-Dade Public Library System for about 8 years now. And when I go to the Miami-Dade Public Library System, I typically am working on my project and or spending quality time with my significant other, Lori. At some point, various staff members in the Miami-Dade County Public Library System, from the top down, started observing and hearing about my project. And I don't know if these persons object to what I write and say because they're afraid it will expose some of the stuff they participate in. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, there are members in the employ of the Miami-Dade Public Library System that participate in very violent forms of clandestine gang stalking against patrons, library patrons, that they seek to harm or want to discontinue their patronage at that library system. And when I started experiencing various forms of hostility by staff members of the Miami-Dade Public Library System, obviously a combination of bigotry, personal animosity, and anger at my ability to communicate the stalking mechanisms that they participate in so clearly to a worldwide audience. Okay? Many of them started writing fraudulent, lying, libelous, and defamatory comments about me in my library file. Many of these comments have absolutely no evidence indexed to them at all. And I disputed many of these injurious and hateful, spiteful even, comments left by Miami-Dade Public Library staff in my library file, which is a government-kept file. It is a federally kept file, and their deleterious comments about me in that library file is a federal crime. And I have filed complaints against Miami-Dade Public Library System to my Miami-Dade Public Library System's corporate office, which had absolutely no effect whatsoever because, quite frankly, Miami-Dade Public Library's corporate auxiliary does not investigate the things that happen in the branches. They don't want to vilify the employees that work there, no matter how pandering, hostile, horrible, or violent those employees are to patrons. So I went outside the library system. I have filed complaints against that library system and its employees with the mayor's office, Mayor Daniela Levine Cava, who I consider to be an excellent mayor. I filed complaints with the Board of County Commissioners, who I also see as an effective asset to Miami-Dade County. I filed complaints against Miami-Dade Public Library System with the Office of the Inspector General for waste, fraud, and abuse. I have filed complaints against Miami-Dade Public Library System with the Miami-Dade Human Rights Commission. And I filed complaints against Miami-Dade Public Library System with the FBI and the Department of Justice for perceived collusion with local gang members and semi-terroristic actors that frequent Olympic Park and the Kendall, Florida area with the intention of injuring or otherwise harming myself or my significant other in various capacities. These various deleterious records that these people keep putting into my library file, I can no longer access them because I've been locked out of the records keeping portal on the miamidade.gov website. That will indicate that somebody in that library system manually or otherwise commissioned someone in the IT department of miamidade.gov to block my access from the records keeping portal so I can no longer discover what staff members, employees, corporate officers, and executives in the Miami-Dade Public Library System are writing about me in my federally kept library file. When I say the Miami-Dade Public Library System is corrupt, that is an understatement. They are an organized crime syndicate. Ladies and gentlemen, participating in all manner of covert and plain thuggery. And I back my words up with the documents kept in my library file by those persons. And I assert my right to the United States, to the First Amendment, to the United States Constitution, to say what I'm saying and to assert what I am asserting. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Miami-Dade Public Library System actively colludes with local thugs to harm, harass, intimidate, and otherwise disenfranchise U.S. citizens who they simply don't want in or around the library. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the absolute truth. There is gang stalking abounding in the Miami-Dade Public Library System. And there's gang stalking that abounds in many corporate, semi-corporate, and governmental establishments. A lot of corporate, semi-corporate, and governmental establishments utilize, as a part of their security package, okay, and when I say security package, I mean the package of security remedies that these entities purchase when they hire private security firms to patrol their respective facilities. It isn't just security officers that patrol the facility. There's an undercover element as well that patrols the facility. This undercover element is a part of the security package that these companies, semi-government, and government corporations use to patrol their facilities. There's the plainclothes security and the covert security. It's all a part of the same package that they pay for on a yearly basis. The plainclothes or undercover, or the covert security guards that patrol these various facilities, are hostile, pandering thugs. And they use overt and explicit forms of stalking, terroristic activity, gang stalking, signaling mechanisms, and attacks, as well as collusions with local violent criminals and convicts and other such thuggery, so as to rid themselves of unwanted guests, customers, or patrons. Ladies and gentlemen, systems and databases can be used to enhance the quality of someone's life or to harm the quality of someone's life. Gang stalking itself utilizes systems and databases to further create narratives as to why a person should be stalked, terrorized, and otherwise disrupted as they go about their life. It's all a matter of what's written about you in systems and databases. It could be by a teacher at your high school, or a principal, or a coach, or a supervisor, or a co-worker at an occupation. It could be things written about you by a law enforcer. It could be things written about you by a security guard. It could be things written about you by your own family as a child, when you rely on them for your daily sustenance. Okay, a family member can write something bad about you in a doctor's report. A family member can write something bad about you in to one of your teachers. A family member can write something bad about you to any auxiliary that keeps records on you while you're a minor dependent. Okay? These records will have an impact on the rest of your life, whether you like it or not, because these records are semi-permanent to permanent, and these are the kinds of records that gang stalkers, undercover operatives, and liaisons use to secure their target, to understand their target, to create false narratives so as to continually pester that target. Systems and databases are a potent weapon against a person in this country. If you write enough bad things about a person, or if you document enough bad things about a person in enough systems and databases, eventually you're going to catch, the person you're writing about is going to catch the attention of some gang stalkers. And I'll call them liaisons or operatives, the kinds that actually search these records when they're looking for their next new target. Okay, these people that are doing your stalking don't know you personally. You don't know them personally. All you know is that they are in your vicinity constantly, pestering, annoying, harassing, attacking, and subverting you. What are they relying on? How do they know to do these things? They don't. They're just following signals. They're just following orders. Okay, they're useful idiots, ladies and gentlemen. They do whatever they're told. Whatever they're told. They don't know why, but the liaisons do. It's because of various records that have been kept on you in systems and databases. And mind you, ladies and gentlemen, these records don't have to be true. They can be totally false. But if enough bad records are generated against your name over the course of your young and young adult lives, eventually the gang stalkers are going to start moving in on you as a potential antisocial subversion to society. All right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a situation either where you do something wrong at school, at college, at work, in a church, and automatically the administrators of that institution begin writing deleterious things about you in a file somewhere, an electronic file. It doesn't have to be that cut and dry. It doesn't have to be that straightforward. Okay, it doesn't have to be that clean. Ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, there are persons out there that write straight up lies about people in documents, in files, in electronic records, just to put a damper on your name, character, image, reputation, and likeness. And mind you, ladies and gentlemen, if someone does that to you, or if a number of people do that to you in tandem, so as to harm your reputation or character, overcoming that obstacle can be difficult. Even if you do more good over the rest of your life and create good records about yourself with various institutions and your government, those old records of you as a bad person or a deleterious person still remain. So ultimately, and quite frankly, quite disgustingly, your life is oftentimes in the hands of people who have access to records and databases, systems and databases. Employee-employer records play into this. All right, all kinds of records and play into this. Your employer could be writing horrible things about you in your electronic files at your company, with the expectation that the quality of your life will decrease because of it. If a future employer goes back to look at your past employers, and your past employers have written all kinds of horrible things about you in your files, they'll make a hiring decision of not hiring you. If you go to a college or university, and various administrators in that college and university have written bad things about you in your college file, when you go to apply to other colleges, they might reference those files as part of the admissions process and choose not to let you into the college because of what previous administrators have written about you. The same with high schools. High school is where the terrorism starts. All right, gang stalkers pull from high school files to find out who the next batch of gangs of targeted individuals will be. If your teachers and various administrators at your high schools are writing bad things about you in high school in your digitally kept files, stalkers have access to that if they think you're a good candidate for a targeted campaign. And they can use those files as justification to put you in a gang stalking campaign. You see, the records that you generate throughout your life are the starting point for whether you're going to have a prosperous, carefree life or a dangerous life with a gang stalking campaign indexed to it. It doesn't have to be anything criminal. It could just be an administrator saying something about your character that makes you look bad in a digital file that they keep. Ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, even if you strive to have the most crystal clean reputation, third parties can always instigate reasons to write bad things about you in digital files. Some of the stalkers that stalk me around town who I wish would disappear, are constantly jotting down bad stuff about me in federally kept files. Okay, the undercover operatives and the liaisons are wards of the state. They document their shadowing of me in digital files. And they oftentimes write bad things about myself. Why? Because I treat their people like garbage. Why? Because they conduct themselves like zoo animals when they're around me. And they are extremely hateful, disgusting, pandering, annoying, intimidating, atrocious, and violent. So when one of these people starts sending signals and another one pops up out of nowhere trying to use their domination or disruption tactics against me, I walk away if possible, but if not, I will confront them. There are various databases and record-keeping mechanisms countrywide that will determine what kinds of people you will meet throughout your life. Lots of people meet people who are signaled to them, but only a targeted individual meets people signaled to them who mean them harm. Occupational harm, relationship harm, physical harm. And these inbred, ill-conceived stalkers, undercover operatives and liaisons, are all complicit in the thuggery. Now, I've contacted a number of federal auxiliaries throughout my time in my gang stalking campaign. I've contacted the FBI about gang stalking, the CIA, the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense. I filed police reports with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office in Kettering, Ohio, about my gang stalking campaign. It didn't do a lot of good because most law enforcers at the federal and state level and most Department of Defense personnel at the federal and state level are not trained to deal with instances of gang stalking. Gang stalking is designed to be a targeted individual's problem and his problem alone. If it were just as easy as filing a police report, then your problem could be solved rather easily. But it's not that simple. It's not as simple as filing a report with some federal, state, or local auxiliary. Ultimately, your gang stalking campaign is designed to be for the remainder of your natural life. Okay, it is a life sentence that is handed to you by thuggish and hostile state-sanctioned third parties, and it's meant to be at your perpetual expense. Clandestine gang stalking is one of those things that political scientists call a wicked problem. It has no easy answer or solution. Imagine a world where strangers band together under the banner of a covert signaling mechanism so that they can wreak havoc in the lives of other people without recourse, without consequence, without punishment. Why? Because what they do is state sanctioned. The kind of coward that will participate in such a thing will become a gang stalker. And mind you, ladies and gentlemen, as I oftentimes say, gang stalkers like the feeling of being above the law, of being above their fellow man, of being above punishment. They like being able to create false narratives against their targets and watch the target essentially become subject to various and hostile harassment mechanisms because of that false narrative that they created. It makes them feel powerful. All right, you got persons who have never accomplished anything in their natural life plugging into gang stalking campaigns and wreaking havoc in the lives of persons that they don't know and getting away with it. And that's the incentive, okay? Why does somebody become a target? Why would the United States allow such a thing? They allow it because it's a way of allowing certain U.S. citizens the luxury of being able to use hostile, violent, pandering, or annoying disruption tactics against other citizens. It's a luxury to be able to do stuff like this. All right? It's something that people strive to attain. All right? A place in their natural life where they can literally attack other U.S. citizens with no recourse. All right? That's the allure of gang stalking. That's the benefit of gang stalking. That's the incentive to participate in clandestine gang stalking. And your reasons aren't vetted. A liaison won't say, well, why do you want to target this person that you haven't seen in a while? What's your reason? What's your justification? All right? Stalkers don't need justification to do what they do. They just follow the signals to a person who has been marked as suspicious or otherwise deleterious, and they descend upon him like a pack of wild hyenas. And I'll have you know, ladies and gentlemen, that I live and reside in Miami-Dade County, Florida, which is a very international location. There are persons from various demographic groups, ethnicities, languages, and backgrounds that reside here. And because of its fairly tropical and international locale, Uncovering the gang stalking mechanism here would be more of a task for federal auxiliaries than in somewhere like Oklahoma, Tennessee, Kansas, or Missouri. Very Americana locations. All right, Miami-Dade County is just 90 miles off the coast of Cuba. Cuba was just labeled a state sanction of terrorism human trafficking and dope smuggling by the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. Combine that influence with gang stalking operations in the United States that may be manipulated or overseen by Cuba. That would essentially give the Cuban or Spanish-speaking population of Miami-Dade County complete sovereignty and autonomy over and above American law. Some people say we need more state rights, so states can decide if they want to use gang stalking or not, and in whatever capacity they choose. Well, through clandestine gang stalking, you've already brought back Jim Crow. You got stalkers using various disruption mechanisms under the direction and blessing of the state to perpetrate Jim Crow-like activities against sovereign U.S. citizens. And when I say Jim Crow, I'm talking about making up laws on the spot for people who you don't think belong in your immediate vicinity or community. All right, it's behavior modification. It's population control. It's the control of prosperity in this country. It's the control of who succeeds and who doesn't. All right, the federal establishment of this country likes to control who sees success in this country and who doesn't. It's easier to control that dynamic if you can control who has a clear path forward in their life and who has a bunch of stalkers that they're trying to ward off every single day, every single hour, every single minute. The United States was supposed to be the country of innovation. It was supposed to be the country of freedom. It was supposed to be the country of democracy. It was supposed to be the country of good governance. It was supposed to be the country of corporate social responsibility. It was supposed to be a meritocracy. It was supposed to be that shining city on a hill. It was supposed to be of the people, by the people, and for the people. It was supposed to be a constitutional republic. It was supposed to be the great experiment. Well, the U.S. federal establishment is experimenting, all right. It's doing human experimentation with thug modules, where everyone you come in contact with is automatically and immediately cast as a thug and acts as a thug against you, the target. There are a number of elements that go into a successful gang stalking campaign. And one of those elements is intellectual property theft. Gang stalkers see this a lot. Where they come up with an idea and they save their idea to their computer, or they come up with an innovation and save the innovation to their computer, or they come up with a patent or a trademark for a great new product and save that patent on their computer. Or maybe they write a wonderful song or a wonderful poem or an idea for a movie or television show and save it to their computer, not knowing that there are stalkers who have hacked their computer, and through a product called Project Echelon, they're stealing your ideas and selling them to other people so they can capitalize on your idea instead of you. Targeted individuals encounter a lot of mimicry. All right, thuggish stalkers, liaisons, and undercovers mimicking you. How you walk, how you talk, how you dress, how you wear your hair, the kinds of things you say, the places you go, how you interact with people. They mimic you to try and demonstrate that you are not needed on this earth. We don't need Smith on this earth. We have other people that look, act, and talk just like him. And they don't talk bad about America like he does. We can become Smith. We can use stalkers to imitate and mimic him to an exact degree. Almost as if they're taking your life from you by showing others how to mimic you, demonstrating that our people are better than him at being him. So why do we need him on this earth at all? You see, one element of gang stalking that's not talked about enough is the assumption of another person, or the usurpation of another person. Okay? Your gang stalkers try to become you so that they can stick to you more closely. They try to usurp your life and move in on your life. If you're a targeted person and you're a top seller at your company and you do sales, it would not be difficult at all for a state-sanctioned stalker whose job is to disrupt your occupation and your employment progress to become hired at the same company as you, in the same department as you, and given the same duties as you, with the expectation that this new stalker, this new challenger, will outdo you at your job and set you back. When you're in sales, sometimes stalkers who have been planted in your company as a reward for their participation in stalking, the state will allow them to steal your customers. I had that happen to me at Sprint PCS. I was a top seller at Sprint PCS from 2005 to 2008. I was at the corporate Sprint store in Legacy Village, which is located in Lyndhurst, Ohio. Legacy Village is an outdoor shopping mall, very upscale, very ritzy, very beautiful. And for the longest time, I was a top seller. Then, arbitrarily and strangely, the district manager who favored me because of my sales acumen was transferred to another district, and we got another district manager who didn't like me because of my sales acumen. And he brought in some guys from another store with the instruction of stealing my customers from me. So if I had a customer that needed a phone and they came to the store, one of these knuckleheads would say, well, Smith's not here right now, but I can help you. and they would sell them the phone instead of me, and that hurt my sales numbers because they were doing that to me dozens of times per month. All right, someone would call the store on the phone and I wouldn't be there, and rather than taking their name and number and leaving it on my desk so I could call them back and get the sale, they would tell them, he's not here right now, but you can come here and see me. I can sell you the phone. Sometimes they would lie to him and say, he's not here right now, you can come and see me and I'll give him credit for the sale. And my customer would go see them and buy the phone from them or the new subscription from them, thinking that I would get the sale because they asked for me personally, but that sales rep had stolen the sale without the customer's knowledge. And over time, I was fired from that company from some tampering that was being done with my time card by another employee. But those persons were sent to Sprint in a manner that was synchronous so as to rob me of my sales, disenfranchise me, and eventually get me fired from the company that I had worked so hard to build a reputation for myself in. I had a rotating client base of people of all races and backgrounds that would only come to that store to see me because they liked my knowledge of the product, they liked my sales presentation, and they liked my customer service skills and abilities. But that was all disrupted systematically by a shakeup at the district manager level and a shakeup at my store, which brought in persons who essentially had larceny in their hearts and destruction in their souls. Ladies and gentlemen, so it's a situation where stalkers oftentimes offer the target up, or rather liaisons offer the target as sort of a gift to stalkers who agree to work with the liaison. For example, let's say you're a liaison and you're assigned to a targeted person by the state. And mind you, this is a human behavior experiment, a depop control, a disruption protocol, a slander mechanism, a disease spreading protocol, an attack method, a destruction method. So mind you, you could be a liaison and maybe you recruit a stalker, or maybe you hear somebody that wants to get plugged in and you set them up and say, I'm going to show you a target, I want you to disrupt him at work. If you succeed, you'll get all his sales. Your commission will go up, your monthly earnings will go up, your reputation with the company will go up, but that target will go down. And I can assist you using state resources to make this happen. Why? Because it helps me achieve my objective as a liaison of dismantling the lives of targets. And then the chaos begins. Systems and databases are integral for the disruption of the life of a person. They don't have to be a target, but it especially harms a target because it gives liaisons, operatives, stalkers, all of which conduct themselves like state-sanctioned zoo animals, unfettered access to your life and your trajectory through life. Thank you for tuning in.